running to Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over to the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. It's Wednesday, the day before, well, kind of the day before Guard. It starts tomorrow night with a VIP dinner. Joined by the ghost of base, Patrick Henry Gordon, filling in for Ash today. They do a little switcheroo. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. How are you today, Brian?
I could be better. It was a disappointing day, but expected. So I'm not going to freak out over it. But yeah, we'll get into all that today. A lot happening yesterday, and everybody's panicking. The panic is hilarious. Oh, man.
Sure is.
Wait to unpack all this. All right. Before we get into the show, got a lot to talk about and a little bit of a condensed timeline. So let's jump right into it. Guys, you know about Van Man taking down big toothpaste with all natural oral care, right? Well, now is the perfect time to grab the dental care bundle to gift out to your family. Van Man's tooth powder is loaded with minerals like eggshell and bone, and combined with pulling oils and peppermint aloe mouth rinse, it's truly the ultimate fluoride-free dental hygiene bundle that saves you 25% off the individual prices. And the Van never stops introducing Van Man's new Pearl Eye Cream and Sweet Onion Shampoo. Head over to badlandsmedia.tv/VanMan to see what's new. Again, that's badlandsmedia.tv/VanMan. All right. And then we also got to talk about our friends over at Save Pulse. Today's show is sponsored by Save Pulse. Save Pulse is dedicated to keeping you and your family healthy with top quality medications like amoxicillin, azithromycin, ivermectin, and hydroxychloroquine at unbeatable prices. The streamlined ordering process makes it easy to stock up on all of your health essentials. And now with new exciting news about fenbendazole showing promise in cancer research, they proudly offer this alongside antibiotics and other viral care meds. But don't wait. Prepare for any health scenario today. Get your supply and stay ahead of the curve with Save Pulse. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/meds and use the promo code SAVEHEALTH at checkout to get a 20% discount on orders over $100. Please note some packages have been held up in customs recently, and all packages that have been held up are now en route to their destination. All right. Let's get rocking, ladies and gentlemen. Starting out, I guess we'll just start out talking about the election debauchery that took place last night. Nothing unexpected. That's the crazy thing. Have you scrolled Twitter this morning at all?
Not really. No.
Everybody's up in arms. We got people blaming Trump. You know, everybody's saying it's Trump's fault. He hasn't delivered on what he promised and all this other crap. It's kind of depressing to see that people don't understand that our elections are fake and still utterly fake.
Yeah. But, actually, will you share my screen? I think this is
sure.
relevant. This is from August 15th at Deadwood.
I want to point out, just to be a contrarian, is I do think there are going to be some rug pulls here. On G Money's not on stage, but I'll be the rug pull narrator here. I I do think that keep an eye on Virginia. I'm going to go ahead and just call the Virginia race. We have a race for the governorship in November. I'm just going to go ahead. Badlands is officially calling the race. Abigail Spanberger is probably going to be the governor of Virginia come January 2026. Winsome Sears, who's the lieutenant governor of under Youngkin, has done nothing in terms of campaigning or promotion. I barely even realized that she was the candidate. Abigail Spanberger signs are everywhere. So I do think there's going to be a rug pull, and I hope that the entire country stops and says, how the hell did that happen? And it has everything to do with the Ron DeSantis op, right? Winsome Sears, by the way, right after the 2022 midterms came out and said, we need to dump Trump and get on DeSantis. And that was when Trump came out and said, Youngkin has a really weird name. It sounds Chinese or something. Remember?
Yeah. I think this was something we all saw coming. Now, the only one that I will say is a little bit surprising in Virginia is the Jay Jones AG race. I don't understand that. That guy should be under criminal indictment, not on a ballot. But nothing here was unexpected. But you're going to see a bunch of people using this to, show the house is on fire, right? There's panic. Republicans got their asses whooped the other day. We lost on Prop 50. We lost Mamdani. We lost Chitterelli. We lost, Winsome Sears against Spanberger. We lost all these races. The world is on fire. And guys, none of that was not expected. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, none of that was unexpected.
Yeah, and that's what I was just demonstrating right there. Is like, if you've been paying attention, Glenn Youngkin was a pacification project. Glenn Youngkin was put in place to pacify, to lower the temperature in Virginia so that people would check out and not really pay attention. The Youngkin administration has not been particularly MAGA. I mean, it stopped the expansion of communism in Virginia temporarily. It paused it, right? But it didn't really push back that hard. Miares brought charges against that superintendent who was moving the transgender rapist around the school, like moving from one school to the next, and he kept raping little girls. Brought charges against that guy and then dropped him, quietly, like over the course of like a year. One charge dropped, and then eventually just like let the guy go. There's and none of those people campaigned for Trump. Miares didn't campaign for Trump. Nobody campaigned for Trump. Trump was in Virginia doing a rally the same day that Miares was campaigning, and in a different part of the state. Miares didn't even mention Donald Trump. Miares this is the AG, he did get Trump's endorsement, but Winsome Sears did not. And I think it was because she was the very first person who came out and said, Trump's done. We got to get rid of him. Ron DeSantis is the future. And the whole thing was one giant coordinated Bolshevik attempted takeover of the MAGA party. And it's continuing right now under the tutelage of Laura Loomer and Mark Levin. Those are they're at the tip of the spear of trying to take over MAGA.
I've got a Levin clip that I plan on playing to segue into your geopolitics segment that kind of hits on that a little bit here, and that's from the Jewish Coalition dinner or lunch or whatever it was that they did, talking about Carlson and Candace Owens and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all those folks. But this is the one thing I am seeing people call out, like Mike Flynn Jr. called out, voter ID and all that stuff. And that's great. That is the type of momentum we need, the momentum behind election integrity and cleaning up our elections. But I've also seen people calling out, things like Susie Wiles, right? The chief of staff for President Trump, and somebody who, a lot of people out there question her loyalties, her underlying motives, right? I'm one of them. I absolutely question Susie Wiles, and I'm not saying she's a bad person or not, but President Trump makes a lot of these endorsements that nobody understands, right? There's been a ton of people that he's endorsing. You're like, why is he endorsing them? Now, is that coming from President Trump directly? Yeah, most likely he's the one that has the final say, but these are endorsements that are put in front of him, and he says, okay, yeah, let's endorse that guy. Miares is one. Some of these, at some point, you got to just say, screw this, the establishment. We got to get rid of this. I'm not endorsing anybody in this race. You guys are on your own. Go win it. Go lose it. If you lose it, then tough shit. You lost it on your own. But I want to play this clip here. This is Richard Barrett. Screwing things up. Oh, I got to remove that. This is Richard Barris on Bannon yesterday, or I think it was last night, talking about the election loss and what he believes to be the reason. Now, keep in mind, Barris is a pollster. He's a great pollster, but he's a pollster. So he's going to stay in his wheelhouse in terms of what actually happened.
Oh, by the way, I just looked at California was called within minutes, and I'm looking at all the Central Valley, heavily Hispanic districts, working class, that Donald Trump outpaced Ukraine first losers like John Duarte and Mike Garcia. They're all gone. I mean, they're squandered. These voters did not come. They did not vote. Look at San Joaquin, 55 yes, 45 no. It's just gross. Stanislaus, Democrats were actually, which was John Duarte's home county, where Donald Trump outperformed him, humiliating. Democrats were just crushing them on early vote returns, crushing them. I mean, look, there's no other argument here. You got to see some of the asinine stuff. Some of these people, like the Ackmans and the Ukraine firsters and the Israeli firsters, are trying to push tonight. You just go crawl under a rock. I can't believe you're not so humiliated by your own stupidity that you're not looking for a rock to hide under for at least the next 2 to 4 years. Stop talking. Just stop. Let more productive people take the reins and save this thing.
Now, I don't disagree with the last part there. Yeah. I don't disagree with the last part there, that there is a divide. There's turmoil in the GOP base, and it's all being instigated by this Israeli first versus America first, like concern, the Levins of the world, the Ackmans, a lot of the TP USA, Turning Point USA base, the what's the guy's name? I'm trying to think. You know who I'm talking about? Like the guys that are out there.
Andrew
Colvett to an extent, but there's other people behind it. The Seth Dillons, of the whole thing.
Yeah,
they're sowing this divide. Laura Loomer, of course, is one of the most glaring of all of them.
She's tip of the spear for sure.
She is absolutely tip of the spear on this, and they're creating this divide. Like America First is in the name, right? It's literally the name, and then you'll have them out there being like, well, we'll get into the clips with Levin here in a minute, but. My X feed is filled with this, and even Elon Musk, a week ago or so, acknowledged that there's something going on with the algorithm at Twitter. It's almost like, or at X, formerly Twitter, that it's almost like we're being force fed this stuff to intentionally divide the party. And did that have anything to do with the turnout? Yeah, sure, maybe, but again, but I want to go back. So I'll let you comment on that before I get into my take on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's almost like Israel's becoming the defining issue of our age, and that was something that I've kind of long anticipated. It's one of the reasons that I've dedicated so much of my energy to understanding the issue inside and out from every perspective. And the reason is simple. It's not because of anti-Semitism. It's not because of the Jews. It's not because of that, like those sentiments. It's because we live under state capture, and people are figuring it out. And if it wasn't state capture, then as we tug on this string, the reaction that we're getting wouldn't be happening. We would be getting a much different reaction. Nobody cares when they accuse Tucker Carlson of being funded by Qatar. Like, there's no reaction to that other than people just kind of rolling their eyes and laughing, But when you accuse people of being controlled by Israel, the algorithm loses its mind, and you get like swarmed and attacked, right? I mean, that's. And not just by like random trolls on X. I'm saying like the Patrick Burns of the world will come in and slide into your DMs and or your replies and start and coming at you. Like the influencers, the people with followings will come after you, and you have to stop and ask yourself why. Like why is this happening?
Yeah. Here was my response to what Barris said, and at one point he said that there's no other explanation other than the turnout, and I'm going to. Respectfully disagree with that, and I'm summoning my inner Chris Paul here. We have to stop pretending that our elections are real, and I'm just going to read this post I made last night, late at night, and that our voter rolls are real, and that black box voting machines with source code no one can review that are owned by private corporations and investment firms are somehow secure ways of voting. Just trust us. Also, you're not allowed to ever look. Getting worked up over the voters didn't turn out is utterly retarded. The bottom line is, until we know our voter rolls are cleaned up, voter ID is mandated, and mail-in balloting is safe and rare, pun intended, we're going to keep getting rugged. They own the media. They own the mainstream narrative, and the outlets that we should care about don't actually give a shit. Has Fox News, quote unquote, our side, ever covered the DOJ letters to Fulton County requesting election records that have been tied up in litigation for 4 fucking years? I added the F-bomb. Sorry, guys. Did they cover the curling case where a federal judge declared we have a right to vote but don't have a right to ensure it's counted accurately? I can go on and on about their willful ignorance of the dangers in our current election environment, and I'm not talking about the 200 illegals found on voter rolls type bullshit. It's way worse than that. In the Democrat versus Republican, it's always the fourth quarter down by 2 for the minority party. It keeps us interested. It keeps us emotionally invested. It's how they keep the balance. People, please use the first principles here. We cannot know who won because we cannot trust any aspect of the system, not one. They make too much money off the push and the pull, the give and the take, and now the same disease that infected the Mockingbird media has made its way into the influencer realm, and I bet they love it because it's far cheaper. This is the first major election since last year's presidential election. They better have gotten what they need. It's time to get to work. And I just don't understand how people don't look at this and say, and this is to the point where people are saying President Trump's got to get going. He does. I said this at I think it was in Vegas, that I don't think the actual arrests and everything come until after 2026 in the midterms, but I think that the election integrity has to start before the 2026 midterms. We've got proof of concept here. We've got movement from the DOJ. We got to see something get moving on this, man. Like, if we don't clean up the elections, the entire thing's gone. 2026 will be absolutely stolen. And President Trump will absolutely be impeached for a third time. I don't think he'll be removed because we'll still have enough votes in the Senate to stop that. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, and this issue is the election issue, I think, is at the heart of everything. I think it's at the heart of fixing the problem, but it's beyond just fixing the elections, because it's understanding the entire apparatus, I think, is designed to feed election theft, right? And I guess also one in the chat say, we should have stopped focusing on geopolitics and just focus on on local action. I would 100% agree with you in a free and fair world. Like, if all things equal, you're 100% right. But that is a libertarian mindset that, frankly, does not jive with reality, because here's how the elections are stolen. It's not as simple as just pressing a button and changing the numbers on your computer, although maybe it could be. It's also the optics. It's the optics of having a public mandate or being able to convince people that, hey, this is the outcome, and people kind of shrug their shoulders and like, yeah, I could see why Abigail Spanberger won. Winston Sears was a really, really weak candidate, didn't back Trump, all that stuff, right? They send money overseas using geopolitical narratives to sell you on the idea that this is in our best interest to send money overseas. It's not just USAID. It's many, many other avenues that they send money through. The money then comes back in the form of donations through NGOs, through proxies, to not just people running for Congress, but the local level. People running for prosecutor, people running for mayor, people running for governor, all of it. And so it's being funded geopolitically, and the geopolitical funding, most of it is coming from U.S. taxpayers, money going out the door. So until you understand that, and then when you start digging into the actual narratives of why we have to send this money overseas, that's when you figure out the whole thing is just fraudulent. The whole thing's a lie. It's all just gaslighting and bullshit. So understanding why we're being lied to, how we're being lied to, and then identifying what are the interests here, like what are the cui bono. And then you realize the entire thing, it's all being sifted down to a binary where there are two sides. There's one side that is trying to perpetuate what is the existing system, and then there's a side that is in support of a revolution against that system, whatever that revolution yields in the end. And that is basically the bifurcation here.
And to be clear, like, I'm not saying that last night was like some surprise and the party is in total turmoil and MAGA is on the brink of collapse, or I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form, but the narratives you're seeing this morning on social media are doom and gloom, panic, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. And it's like, guys, it's not that. Like, nobody expected Prop 50 not to pass. I'm just being dead ass. It was so over. Like, if you have fake elections, why would you think that the guy, the state that elected Gavin Newsom, the state that failed to recall him, the state that, had the mail-in ballots that you could see who was voted for when they're cast, yes or no vote for Prop 50, yes or no vote for the recall on Gavin Newsom, and just miraculously he gets across the line every single time. Like, why did anybody think something was going to change? And, you know, now they're using this to just push back against President Trump. And I hate to say this, but the GOP fucking loves it. The GOP loves it. They would like nothing more than to hit the fast forward button on the next 3 years and make it through the second, third, whatever you want to call it, term of President Trump and just say, we got through that. Our status quo is still maintained. You know, we still got our money printing machine. We've still got, you know,
and the perfect encapsulation of that dynamic is what you're seeing right now between Steve Bannon and Mark Levin, where Bannon is saying Trump's going to get another term, and Mark Levin is saying over our dead body he's getting another term. The Constitution says he can't have one because Mark Levin was never pro-Trump. Still is not pro-Trump. He wrote an op-ed for Fox News in like May of 2016 saying why I would never vote for Donald Trump. So it's like we have to stop pretending that the world is the way that we think it is. It's not like there are still people in MAGA who look at the Republican Party as something that is going to be our savior. Like that's the vehicle we're going to drive to get out of here. No, it's not. Right now, you are watching the split of the MAGA and the Republican Party, and the Republican Party is going to go beat up the Democrats. That's how this is all going to go, and that's how it always was, by the way. All of these people who lost were establishment Republicans. Even people like Jason Miyares, who got Trump's endorsement, he was still establishment. He was still he cut his teeth and everything in the Virginia GOP. The Virginia GOP is absolutely deep state, and you know they all ran on a anti-Trump in a lot of ways, or a like alternate Trump MAGA. Like we're MAGA, but we're just a different kind of MAGA. And everyone's saying, well, this is just proof that MAGA, you know, you have to support Trump if you want to win elections in the future. Yeah, but that's what we also said in 2022. It's what we also said in 2024. So we also said in 2020 and 2018. We've been saying it every 2 years. So when people lose elections, we're like, well, this is just proof that you have to support, that like you should have a pro-Trump platform. I mean, yeah, but there's a lot more to it than that. I mean, it's MAGA needs to eat the Republican Party and spit out the bones, along with the Democrat Party and spit out the bones. There should be no two-party system. There needs to be something different needs to happen. I don't know what it is, but the Democrat Party is irrelevant. What happened today was the Republican Party lost because the Republican Party is part of the Uniparty, and the Uniparty is just doing the left foot, right foot thing. All right, left foot, right foot, left foot, and it's trying to step around MAGA and be like, all right, MAGA is a flash in the pan. We'll just keep moving on. You have to create the optic. Like the narrative has to be that the public mandate is the GOP is are the Democrats, and the Democrats and GOP are anti-America.
We, Ash and I were covering chapter 10 of Fourth Turning, Neil Strauss and Howe, Fourth Turning. And that book was written in 1997. And they have a prophecy of the Fourth Turning from 2005 on. And it's strikingly, there's a lot of accuracy in what they wrote. And one of the things they wrote, to your point there, is that perhaps a single party will emerge and consume the other two parties. And that will be the party that moves forward, just one party, a one-party system where everybody kind of comes together under an umbrella. And I think MAGA absolutely should have the potential for that. You know, I don't know if you guys saw the Marjorie Taylor Greene interview on The View. I thought it was nothing spectacular, but when they went up there and they actually got into conversations back and forth, it's like, okay, wait, she's not a crazy lunatic that she's been portrayed to be. Now, I still think that most of the women, minus maybe Hostin and Farrah Griffin, are absolute lunatics. Hostin's just mildly a lunatic, and Farrah Griffin, I think, is the white hat. But anyways, I thought that was really fascinating. You bring up the single party, and that's what Strauss and Howe kind of predicted as one of the things in the Fourth Turning.
The dangerous part about that too, because I remember when Bannon was talking about this in 2022, it made me a little nervous when he's like, you're about to see the destruction of the Democrat Party, and the Republican Party is going to rule for a century or something like that. Here's the danger in that, because I actually agree with Bannon that I think if all things were left equal and we were able to have free and fair elections, we would just see the basically marginalization of the Democrat Party into nothing, and then just the GOP just runs everything. Problem with that is that where is the center of power? The center of power then shifts to the leadership of the party, and the people who are the chairman and all the officers and executives. They get to basically control how the money flows within the party, which means they get to pick and choose who the candidates are, which means that's where the center of power is. And so a one-party system is ultimately a totalitarian system, unless the party ends up splitting within itself and forming new parties. And that's the natural human nature, like game theory. But again, I just think political parties, these institutions, they then become the power centers, and that's the problem. Then the power is not with the people; the power is with the political parties.
Yep. Let's listen to this little clip here. This was just before the election, Alina Habba. And let me just point out right here for, the Trump administration being like some crazy racist. You've got a black man. I'm assuming the guy between Habba is he looks like maybe Muslim, maybe Hispanic. And then all the way on the left, either a white guy or potentially Asian Hispanic. And then Habba herself, who is Iraqi.
The U.S. Attorney's Office will coordinate with our partners at the FBI to respond to complaints related to the upcoming general election. This office will investigate and prosecute any criminal activity related to the election process, including intimidating or bribing voters, buying and selling voters, impersonating voters, altering voting ballots and tallies, stuffing ballot boxes, and marking ballots for voters against their wishes or without their input. And it will do so regardless of who commits those crimes and regardless of party or affiliation.
I mean, it's going to Badlands.
That was an interesting note at the end, regardless of party or affiliation. Wouldn't it be crazy to find out the Republicans were the ones rigging the elections for the Democrats?
It absolutely would.
Think about it. When do the Republicans raise the most money? When the Democrats are in office, right?
Yeah.
That's why they love the right foot, left foot thing. It's like, all right, now it's your turn to be in power, so I can then go grift off of being a dissident towards you, and I will make all the money now, and then I will take office, and you will make all the money. That's how it all works. But what she just described, by the way, was a lot more sophisticated than just pressing a button and changing the vote totals in the computer, which I admit certainly I think is probably possible. I don't know. I don't know the actual infrastructure, but think about that entire apparatus, that network she just described. That is an advanced, sophisticated human network, right? That requires funding, organization, resources, motive, incentive. I mean, you have to incentivize all the people within that network to do what you want them to do, which is to steal an election and then keep their mouth shut over it, right? And that means they are either being promised clout in the form of like a future position or financial, just money, right? I mean, power, money and power is basically what's driving all of this, and influencing people to respond to the right incentive structure is how you get away with it.
Let's jump into this. This is from Just the News, and I just want to highlight this one little portion here because this kind of ties into what I was saying about people waking up and like the sky is falling. This was an article from Ben Whedon. Says there was in short simply no silver lining for the GOP Tuesday evening whatsoever. I mean, there nobody can point to. So I asked, playing around with Grok this morning, and I asked it, what race did the GOP lose that they were predicted to win? And it said there were several, including the Mamdani race, the Chitterelli race, and the Winsome Sears race. And I'm like, none of those races the GOP was predicted to win. Mamdani was winning the whole entire time. Sherrill in New Jersey was winning the whole entire time. And Spanberger has been winning the whole entire time. So where are we getting this information from? Like, why are we dooming out over this?
Yeah,
it's stupid.
Yeah.
But then listen to this next part. At least a few Republicans seem willing to learn. Several pundits deemed the contest a decisive repudiation of Trump's focus on foreign affairs at the expense of the economy. Quote, Trump spent all year in the Middle East. His big donors loved this. The voters did not, said commentator Mike Cernovich. Virginia is going to be under a Democrat supermajority now. Keep listening to Mark Levin, Mr. President, and you'll be back to impeachment trials in 2026. I don't totally disagree with the latter part of what Cernovich said right there.
Isn't it funny that Mark Levin's catching all this flack? I mean, and this is what
both sides.
This is what I was saying. Yeah, this is what I was saying months ago, where Trump just walked into the middle of the neocon camp, pulled out his camping chair, opened it up, and just sat that down the middle. And he's like, "What's up, guys?" And they're all like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And then the artillery shells are coming in now.
And both sides are fighting over it.
Cernovich, though, I have so many posts for the past 8 years of Cernovich turning on Trump. Like, he's the most he's a backstabbing snake. He's an opportunist. He's definitely not like pro-Trump or like America first. He is just a grifter, in my opinion. Cernovich is a total grifter. And yeah, the fact that he's now leading, like one of the people leading this narrative of, well, Trump spent too much time focusing on world peace and geopolitics, like as if this is Trump's fault. Yeah, dude, the Republican Party is the enemy. That's the truth. That's the answer.
Yeah. Let's so we got a couple of truths, and I want to get into a clip from Trump's discussion this morning. But he truthed this out last night, yesterday morning, excuse me. The unconstitutional redistricting vote in California is a giant scam in that the entire process, in particular the voting itself, is rigged. All mail-in ballots where the Republican in that states are shut out is under very serious legal and criminal review. Stay tuned. So that's interesting. No idea what he means by that. But I want to play this clip here because President Trump had a breakfast this morning, I think, with all the Republican senators. The press is in there. He does tell the senators, hey, we're going to talk here for a little bit. After I'm done with this, we're going to dismiss the press, and then we're going to get down to brass tacks, and we're going to have a discussion here about where we're going to go from here. And, he talks about the shutdown for a little bit, but then he started talking about the filibuster. And again, this is something that I don't know how to feel about this. Listen to this clip here.
It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it. And if you don't terminate the filibuster, you'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation. There'll be no legislation passed for 3.25. We have 3.25 years, so that's a long time. But when they can't do an extension, and John, I think they've done an extension every single time they've ever been asked forever. This is the first time they haven't done an extension. Extensions are supposed to be easy, but if they won't do an extension, they won't do any bill, even a simple bill. And we should do our own bills. We should get out. We should do our own bills. We should open up. We should start tonight with the country's open. Congratulations. Then we should pass voter ID. We should pass no mail-in voting. We should pass all the things that we want to pass to make our elections secure and safe, because California is a disaster. Many of the states are disasters. But can you imagine when they vote almost unanimously against voter ID? All we want is voter ID. You go to a grocery store, you have to give ID. You go to a gas station, you give ID. But for voting, they want no voter ID. It's only for one reason, because they cheat. We would pass that in 15 minutes. If you don't get it, you'll never pass that. You'll never talk about mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots make it automatically corrupt. If you have mail-in ballots, automatically it's correct. Even Jimmy Carter, they had the Carter Commission after he got out of office, and he had a group of very distinguished people, Democrats and Republicans, and they passed, they recommended things take place. It was a long time ago. And they said about mail-in ballots, if there is mail-in ballots, there will definitely be corruption, because, they pass through too many hands. I mean, you go in to vote, and they want your card. Even me, I went into Palm Beach. You go in to vote, they want your card, you're this, you're that. They say, I'm sorry to do this, sir, but I have to look at your identification. I said, that's all right. I love that. But you're really not going to get away with much. It was very, very professional, very good, the way it's supposed to be. But these people don't want that. They have legislation in California where it's illegal to ask somebody for voter ID. If you ask somebody for voter ID, if you're an official and you say, I'd like to see your voter ID, they can arrest you, okay? They can arrest you because they want to cheat, and they get away with it, and the Republicans let them get away with it, and we won't do that if we have the filibuster. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and we're going to see if we can sway, because I know we have a lot of, not a lot, I'd say half feel this way, maybe a little bit less than half, and it's time to have a really good talk. If I thought that they weren't going to pass the filibuster, I wouldn't even bring it up. They're going to pass it within the first hour. If they take power, and it's more likely that they take power if we don't do it, because we're not going to be passing any legislation, not going to approve anything. We're going to go 3.25 years. There won't be one bill that we're going to pass. Because the easiest thing to pass is exactly right now what they won't pass.
So I'm coming around on the filibuster, because he's exactly right. If they do steal 2026, which if nothing changes, that's absolutely on the table. Remember, the filibuster only survived the last time because of Manchin and Sinema, the two quote unquote independents that aligned with the Democrats. They were Democrats that left the party to become independents, and they're the only two that kind of held up the filibuster, changing that rule in the Senate. If that goes away and it's not the GOP doing it, then we see Washington D.C. become a state. We see Puerto Rico become a state. The packing the Supreme Court is on the table. There's a lot of shit that's going to get done. Meanwhile, we have an overwhelming mandate for President Trump, the first GOP presidential candidate that's won a popular vote in like almost 3 decades, going back, 2 decades, 2.5 decades. He's got both chambers of Congress. He's got the Senate. He's got the mandate, but he can't get anything done because you got to have 60 votes. Otherwise, they'll just filibuster everything.
Yeah, and again, this just gets back to the root issue, is that there aren't 2 parties right now. There are 3 parties. There's the Republican Party, there's the America First Party, and then there's the Democrat Party. And really, at the end of the day, there are 2 parties. There's the Uniparty, and then there's America First. The Uniparty just has 2 different colors, red and blue. But Abigail Spanberger, they're prepping for the White House. Like that's their plan is to put the CIA soccer mom in the White House, which is why she had to win the election yesterday, which is also why they had to steal the election from Nick Fiera, I think is whatever his name is, the guy who was part of the Binder. He's part of Bindergate. He was one of the guys in Bindergate.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, they found 15,000 votes in 2020. They found 15,000 votes at 3 a.m. on a thumb drive in a drawer somewhere, and every single one happened to be for Abigail Spanberger. That's the only reason she retained her seat in Congress in 2020, and not one finger was raised by the Republican candidate, a young military veteran who was running on that whole shtick, and now he's like a social media influencer. So it's just like, this is the Uniparty, and they want you to play in their sandbox. And we don't want to play in their sandbox, and so they're gonna basically just say, all right, well, MAGA is no longer politically relevant then.
So here's the thing with the filibusters is I don't mind the filibuster. However, I want a simple majority to pass election reform. And that's the key. That's the only thing I care about. And I think what President Trump is trying to articulate and is actually articulating is that that's the only thing that they need to block the filibuster for, is to pass election reform. Article 1, Section 4 gives Congress the authority to change election laws for federal elections. Okay, so again, states, you still have your own sovereignty over your own state elections, from state level down, from your governor down. It's all on you. The federal government can do very, very little to infringe on that. But for federal elections, they can pass laws. So they can do away with universal mail-in balloting. They can require voter ID to vote. They can require you to clean your voter rolls. They can require you to vote hand-marked paper ballots hand counted at the precinct level. They can do all this. Now, the question I have is, if President Trump does get them to nuke the filibuster, which is still kind of a tough thing to do, would these clowns even pass election reform? And what would that election reform look like? If you got somebody like John Thune that's going to be leading the charge in this, if you've got somebody like Speaker Johnson that's going to be leading the charge in this, what does that reform actually look like? They're going to give us some bullshit like, okay, you get voter ID. Sure. Everybody in California can get a voter ID. Everybody, there's tons of states where you get voter ID. Green card holders can get an ID. By voter ID, I mean a driver's license, an ID card. So I mean, I'm starting to come around to the idea of eliminating the filibuster, because I think once it's eliminated, we see that this country is about a 65-70 seat majority. GOP, conservative, MAGA, whatever you want to call it. I'm going towards MAGA, but yeah, that's where I land on that.
I mean, or consider the possibility the reason they haven't done the filibuster yet is because they know it's a really, really useful excuse for why Republicans never get anything done. And as soon as they get rid of it, it's going to be undeniable that the Republican Party is not loyal to the American people and never has been. And they don't want to lose that narrative shielding. So they're going to keep the filibuster in place. Even if they somehow got it removed, I still don't think they're going to try to implement Trump's agenda. I mean, that's just not that's not what their donors want. And ultimately, that's who they care about. They don't care about the American people.
Yeah, the whole thing has become about money, and that's what I was saying in my rant in response to Richard Barris. In my rant there, I was saying it's a push and pull. Every single election cycle, it's the fourth quarter, down by 2. You need a field goal to win. You're on the 45-yard line. You got to get 10 more yards, and you're there. And they fundraise off of this, and they move off of this. And nothing ever gets done because we're always in this state of panic. Oh, the Democrats are going to take power back if we don't give 10 more dollars. And it's going to start like, it's 2025, November 5th. By the way, remember the 5th of November, a year ago when President Trump won. It's going to start now. I mean, starting today, your phones are going to start blowing up with the win red advertisements and solicitations, and it never ends. It never ends. And if we actually had, true representation, safe elections, we would see that we are a majority conservative country, and you wouldn't have the need for that push and pull. And when that push and pull is gone, DC loses a lot of its luster. They lose a lot of their fundraising capabilities. They lose a lot of the ability for them to get it's all a sham, man. And we're a victim of this back and forth that they have.
Yeah, we're a victim of the lies. We're a victim of just narrative where, to Chris Paul's point, he talks about how we all get so wrapped up in these stories that ultimately don't matter. I mean, all the time and energy we've spent invested in some of these storylines, these domestic storylines about some of these elections, some of these people who actually aren't even going to be relevant now moving forward, and it's because we're just distracted by shiny objects instead of getting down to like the core first principles of the whole situation, which is that elections are totally fake and fraudulent.
Yeah. Look at this. The 2025 polling for Chitterelli versus Sherrill ends up winning by 13 points. The last polling average before the election was a 3.6% difference, 3.6 points. And she ends up winning by 10 points. That's just atrocious. If you look at the numbers here, Chitterelli started making a lot of ground, and that ground stopped on October 1st and it flatlined. And what else happened on October 1st? The government shut down. And now that election is over, you're going to see the push to reopen the government. We'll get into that in just a second. Who
was pushing mail-in voting too was the Virginia GOP. But Winsome Sears was sending out text messages being like, "Vote now, vote early." And then on Sunday, they sent me a text message saying, I try to unsubscribe to every single thing they signed me up for, but they said Tuesday is your last chance to vote. Make sure to come out and vote on Tuesday. It's like, wait, you mean election day is my last chance to cast a vote? Chance. Yeah, that's the Virginia Republican Party saying that. And if you don't think that that's the whole point of Scott Presler, it's the whole point of this psyop. And now you've been conditioned to accept mail-in voting as a normal part of life now. It's election season.
I saw an article this morning. We can't just win. We can't win with just one Scott Presler. No, we're giving them the fuel to win. The more Scott Preslers we add, we're inflating the voter rolls more and more with every single voter, because every single voter that they sign up is not a guaranteed vote. It's just a guaranteed person on the voter roll, and that does us no good. Silver lining. This was pretty hilarious. This was at Mamdani's victory celebration. Somebody hacked into his system, I guess, and put this on the screen. Look, they just now start to realize it. So somebody hacked in.
Didn't the White House post this last night?
Yes, the White House reposted this last night. And, I'll say this. It says Trump is your president for those that aren't listening. And it's projected on the big screen where Mamdani is supposed to be giving his victory speech here shortly. Trump is your president to the background of the New York Knicks logo, kind of a mock-up of the Knicks logo. A lot of people are saying, well, that's because it was at the White House posted it because it was at the Mamdani thing. Somebody hacked it and, all this other stuff. I don't know, man. It's not lost on me that it's a symbolic message here that, just a week and a half ago or so, we found out the NBA is utterly rigged. And President Trump puts an NBA logo up with Trump as your president, as if to say, hey, it's a little rigged, buddy.
Dude, I didn't know that's where the origin. I saw the White House posted the graphic. I didn't really know what the relevance of it was.
Yeah.
How did they get the graphic is my question. Like that's like that quickly. Dude, I definitely subscribe to Chris's idea of our boy Donnie, our boy man Donnie. It's pretty interesting. I don't know if you know the people who backed him, but It was like a ton of Jewish billionaires backed him, which I'm not saying those are
Mamdani?
Oh yeah, dude. Like I have an article that talks about it. He was backed by Jewish billionaires. He was backed by the Orthodox community. He was backed by all that. I mean, and the whole narrative is like, oh, well, he's gonna start concentration camps like Hitler did and put the Jews in concentration camps. Those are like the mimetic narratives, and it's like, well, actually, he was funded by a bunch of Jewish billionaires. So yeah, I'll pull the pictures and videos. I mean, I'll
So this is the anti-war working group. This is their Sunday, November 2nd policy meeting and agenda notes. And look at these notes. This is the Democratic Socialists of America anti-war working group's proposal. Divest city pension funds from Israeli bonds and securities, withdraw city funds from banks that lend money to Israel or do business in Israel, end city contracts with companies that do business with Israel, operate city-run grocery stores free from Israeli products, investigate real estate agents hosting illegal sales of stolen lands in the West Bank. What? I could get behind that. Evict weapons manufacturers and transporters from the New York City metro area, remove nonprofit status from charities that raise funds for the IDF, divest CUNY endowment and reinstate wrongly fired professors, dismantle Eric Adams' New York City Israeli Economic Council, NYPD training of IOF, which is supposed to be IDF, but Israeli Occupation Forces, and repression of demonstrators for the SRG, arrest Netanyahu and active IDF soldiers for war crimes. Our boy Mamdani.
I mean, that is kind of interesting that Netanyahu no longer feels safe going to New York. He just gave a speech there like 2 months ago.
Hey man. Did you find what you were looking for?
Yeah, hold on one second. Just keep going. I'll bring it up.
Okay. So the government shutdown has now surpassed the longest in our history, 35 days. President Trump today beat President Trump in 2018, 2019. He put this out on Truth Social yesterday morning. SNAP benefits, which increased by billions and billions of dollars, manyfold during crooked Joe Biden's disastrous term in office due to the fact that they were haphazardly handed to anyone for the asking, as opposed to just those in need, which is the purpose of SNAP, will be given only when the radical left Democrats open up the government, which they can easily do, and not before. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. And then, of course, this morning after the election's over and the Democrats can stop with the doom and gloom and everything else, a deal to end the government shutdown takes shape in the Senate. Of course it does. The contours of a three-legged plan to end the government shutdown came into sharper focus on Monday. Two of the plan's three pillars include a vote on the Affordable Care Act tax credits and a new short-term funding bill. It says they include question marks. There's no question marks. It'll all be taken care of within a day or two. The plan's third leg seems likely to be the easiest lift, passing a minibus to fund military construction, legislative affairs, and agriculture, and it would provide proof of concept that appropriators can still do full-year bills. I mean, it's easy to do a full-year bill when you're literally just taking the last bill and kicking the can down the road like they have since 1997. So then there's going to be questions over the date, because if they pass a bill right now that doesn't fund past the new year, then they have to do it again in like literally 2 weeks, because the next funding bill would be due November 21st. And so it's just an absolute shit show, man. Just nothing about our Congress is serious anymore, or has been for a long time, actually.
Yeah. So I have a screenshot of a headline. I do have a few headlines that talk about some of these billionaires, these Jewish billionaires who are giving them money. One of them is this woman, Elizabeth Simmons, or Simons, I think maybe is how you pronounce it. She's the daughter of Jim Simons. And then I have this video that I'll show you that just has Mamdani. Okay. So here's the headline. This is from Forward, which is like a Jewish outlet. They publish like Ben Shapiro articles all the time. And it says, meet the Jewish insiders hoping to help Mamdani get elected as mayor. Progressive Jewish strategists helped the Muslim candidate navigate controversy and connect with voters. And here is a video.
We recently met and we found out that he's Jewish. His mother was Jewish and his grandmother was Jewish. So, Mr. Mayor,
there's Mamdani right there wearing a kippah. He's wearing a yarmulke right there.
Don't hang out with me.
Okay.
So welcome to our community, and I want to tell you about Rabbi Indig. Not when your numbers were up, when Adams dropped out.
Now, I mean, the argument can be made that these, you're running for mayor of New York, you got to go in the Jewish community. I mean, it's New York, I think, is 12% Jewish. You have to go in there and connect with them because they're power brokers. But there's a center of power there. So I get that. I mean, it's just politics, but I mean, there's this narrative out there that this guy is being almost like he's being funded by Qatar or something. And Qatar was asked about this actually on the world stage at several conferences. And their response was, I literally don't care about what's happening in New York City. Like, the only thing that I care about as far as New York goes is that when I travel there, I don't want the traffic to be bad. So if he fixes the traffic, I support him. But otherwise, I really don't care about New York. Like, I live in Doha, and screw New York. I think it almost was like they wanted to say, if I was going to invest money in controlling American politicians, I wouldn't focus on the mayor of New York. But yeah, I mean, that list you read was pretty interesting, though. I mean,
it is
that you would target New York City for these IDF sympathizers is going to cause a lot of interesting cracks and fissures in American society.
I mean, it's interesting because New York is one of the economic powers around the world in terms of its, individual city. I did not know that he had that much funding from Jewish backers. And, is that a testament to how worn out Israel is over the war in Gaza? Is that a testament to that they're willing to back a progressive Democrat socialist who's anti? And what does that have to do with anything like foreign policy wise? Mamdani's, he can't even make state policy, nonetheless foreign policy. So it's just like one of those things where you conflate like something that has nothing to do with what your intentions are. I don't know.
Well, did you see the clip of during the primaries where they had 5 people on stage running? Because remember, the real race was the Democrat primary, right? Right. And they were all asked the question, what's the first country you plan to visit when you become mayor? That was literally the question. And one person who was Jamaican said, I want to go to Jamaica because I'm from Jamaica. Fine. I think 3 of them said that they wanted to, they would go to Israel. 3 of them were like, oh yeah, well, Israel, obviously. And then it came to Mamdani, and he said, I'm not going anywhere. He's like, I'm not running to be a diplomat. I'm running to be mayor of New York City. I have nowhere I want to go. And the moderator said, wait a minute, you're not even going to go to Israel? He said, why would I go to Israel? I thought Mamdani in that moment, I was like, okay, this guy's the only one who actually sounds like he's running for mayor of New York. I didn't even know what his policies were at the time, but that's indicative of how the mayor of New York City is viewed. Is you are a foreign leader almost, like a national figure. And the question, their focus was, where are you going to go on your first diplomatic trip out of the country?
Yeah, that's fascinating, dude. I did not know. What a based answer, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, and then think about what Charlie Kirk said about all. He's like, we need to face the fact that all these Jewish billionaires are the ones funding all these progressive causes, right? I mean, he said that. So I don't think it's like a fatigue thing. I think this is a lot of this stuff was being funded by them all along. I mean, Alex Soros was certainly funding. There are pictures of him and Mamdani all over the place. So Alex Soros was certainly funding. I mean, he's Jewish. He's a billionaire. And his father is known for funding the mass migration of Muslims from the Middle East to Europe and the United States. Open Societies Foundation. That's literally what Open Societies Foundation means. That's what it stands for. So, right. It's kind of on brand. It's just now people are paying attention in a way they weren't before.
That's fascinating. All I got to say is if New York City goes to shit, do not move to Florida. We are full. All right, let's jump into this. Brandon Gill, representative from, I believe, Texas, introduced a impeachment resolution for Judge Boasberg regarding the Arctic frost investigation. We all know that resulted in the spying of numerous senators, including Ron Johnson, Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, Bill Hagerty, Tommy Tuberville, Representative Mike Kelly, and many others. In the resolution here, it says these illegitimate and frivolous non-disclosure orders and subpoenas threaten members of Congress by imposing undue legal scrutiny for fulfilling their constitutional duties. Chief Judge Boasberg signed an order prohibiting AT&T from informing Senator Cruz of his subpoena for at least 1 year. Chief Judge Boasberg expressed that there were, quote, reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in destruction of or tampering with evidence, intimidation and potential witnesses, and serious jeopardy to the investigation. Boasberg had no clear reasonable basis to make this finding about Senator Cruz, which accused him of being willing to destroy evidence and intimidate witnesses in violation of both law and Senator Cruz's ethical obligation as a member of the bar. 2 U.S. Code 6628 states that, quote, the office of the SAA, any officer, employee, or agent of the office of the SAA, and any provider for a Senate office that is providing services to or used by a Senate office shall not be barred through operation of any court order or any statutory provision from notifying the Senate office of any legal process seeking disclosure of Senate data. That is going to be the key, which if they get Boasberg impeached, that's going to be the key right there, is that Boasberg issued that gag order against AT&T against the law, unlawfully. And, therefore AT&T wasn't able to inform them that, hey, we've been requested to get your information. We did see this same type of gag order, or not gag order, but the subpoena, which may have an accompanying gag order. I think it was Bannon, and who else was it? Was it Scavino, Dan Scavino, Kash Patel, and I think Bannon all came out and said that they were notified after the fact, like a year after, that this investigation or a investigation had requested from Google and I think their phone providers their information. So this is going to turn into something a lot bigger, along with the Arctic frost in general, turning into something a lot bigger. The idea that, you can use the FBI can issue subpoenas with gag orders not to notify senators that they're being spied on is sounding a lot like freaking Hoover to me, man.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Also, I found this out yesterday, and just to highlight this one more time, Boasberg just happened to be the chief judge of the D.C. Circuit that presided over Ray Epps' indictment, his hearings, and his plea deal and his sentencing. His plea and his sentencing, Boasberg presided over those two things. And I had it up here. I asked Grok what other J6 cases Boasberg has presided over, and it was Ray Epps, disorderly and destructive conduct in a restricted building, aiding and abetting, 1 year of probation, no prison time. Then he also presided over Sandra Wire, who got the 18 U.S.C. 1512, the one that the Supreme Court overturned. She was a 60-year-old Pennsylvania woman with no violent acts, no violence. And she was sentenced to 14 months. And then Sarah Carpenter, who was a former NYPD police officer, no violent conduct, no violent act, was sentenced to 22 months imprisonment. So you had a 60-year-old woman, 14 months in prison. Sarah Carpenter, a former NYPD cop, 22 months in prison. Ray Epps, you got to go into the Capitol. First person through the gates twice, 1 year probation. So get ready, Boasberg. Coming. All right, let's jump into this article here from Just the News. Trump tariff challengers each make arguments to SCOTUS in a case that could reshape the admin strategy. Plaintiffs today are challenging President Trump's use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977. President Trump is using the fentanyl trade and reciprocal tariffs over his concern over the trade deficit. He's declared emergencies over those two things, and that's how he's using the IEEPA. The president may, quote, investigate, block during the pendency of an investigation, regulate, direct and compel, nullify, void, prevent or prohibit importation or exportation of transactions involving any foreign property during times of emergency. Now, they're going to make the argument that we're not in a time of emergency. I would make the argument we're $38 trillion in debt. We are absolutely in a state of emergency in regards to reciprocal tariffs, and we're losing 100,000 plus Americans a year to the fentanyl trade. That's also an emergency.
Yeah,
Trump
I would agree with that. Well, is there more to read? Let's
just a little bit more. But if you want to comment, one more paragraph, and then I'll let you.
Go ahead and read it all, and then we'll talk about it.
Trump declared both the scourge of fentanyl and other drugs entering the country, as well as persistent trade deficits with other countries, as national emergencies, made available the powers under the IEPA to impose his sweeping tariff. No president since the act's passage has ever used it to justify imposing tariffs under these emergency conditions. And maybe that's why we are getting absolutely railroaded, not just on reciprocal tariffs, but on the national debt. So I'll give you the first crack at it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really, really important. I mean, when Trump says this is the life or death for like America, I completely agree with him. Like, this is going to define so much for us. And I would like to read this quote from William McKinley that I put in today's news brief. They say everything would be so cheap if only we had free trade. Well, everything would be cheap and everybody would be cheap. I do not prioritize the word cheap. It is not a word of hope. It is not a word of comfort. It is not a word of cheer. It is not a word of inspiration. It is the badge of poverty. It is the signal of distress. And there is not a man in the audience, not a white-haired man who, if he will let his memory go back, will not recall that then when things were the cheapest, men were the poorest. Why cheap merchandise means cheap men, and cheap men mean a cheap country, and that is not the kind of government our fathers founded, and it is not the kind their sons mean to maintain. If you want cheap things, go where you can get them. We want labor to be well paid. And he's referring to his tariff program, his very aggressive tariff program that he implemented when he was president in the late 18. Or he would implement when he became president in the 1890s. And it's important to understand that American industry was cultivated under a protectionist strategy. Like, we had protectionisms in place, we had tariffs in place. That's what allowed our industry to incubate and grow the way that it did throughout the early 20th century. And, all these people are lying to you when they talk about free trade. He's 100% right here when he talks about everything being cheap. You're already seeing when the good quality of goods goes down, the quality of life goes down, and you're seeing that in your life right now.
This is probably one of the discussions I'm most looking forward to having this weekend is the What is 1776 panel, because I think this tariff thing is going to tie specifically into what led to the American Revolution broadly, but I think it's going to tie into that. So I'm going to save this for that. And on that note, I will play our little plug for Cocoa Beach GART coming up starting on Friday morning, starting tomorrow night with the VIP dinner. The only thing I'll say about this is, look, the Congress delegated away this authority. The president never did anything with it. We've been getting our asses pummeled on tariffs. We've talked about the Brazil tariffs, where the courts, the Senate voted to rescind President Trump's tariffs. It'll never make it through the House. Then they went after, they went Brazil, and then I think they went Canada. And then they just said, screw it, we're going to lump them all together, and voted to rescind all those tariffs. But again, it's not going to make it through the House. If you want that power back, repeal the IEEPA, repeal the Trade Act of 1974, I think it was. There's like 5 of them. There's an act, a 1932 law. Congress is freaking lazy, and they gave away all this authority. The presidents, up until President Trump, have also been lazy. They've been, reaping the benefits of, like Gordon said, cheap products.
Well, they've been putting a globalist supply chain in place, which is to benefit their transnational cartel corporatist friends.
Yes, exactly. Cheap labor, cheap products, cheap goods, and Americans were fat and happy, replacing their cheap products every 2 months, and we were making nothing. We were turned into a country of nothing but service. And I know I've said this before. All we do is service each other. That sounds really bad, but that's all we do is service each other. So yeah, on that note, let's play this GART 10 promo here, because I am definitely looking forward to that What is 1776 panel.
Here on the sun-kissed shores of Cocoa Beach, where the ocean meets the horizon, the Great American Restoration Tour continues on November 6th through the 9th, 2025. Badlands Media gathers patriots like you, not just to talk, but to rebuild. From truth-telling panels to unbreakable bonds, we're restoring the soul of our nation, one conversation at a time. This is the heart of the Space Coast. where the rockets defy gravity and dreams touch the stars. Feel the thunder of innovation that powers America forward. Together, we're not just healing the past, we're blasting off into a brighter tomorrow, a future where truth prevails, families thrive, and America leads once more. Join us in Cocoa Beach. Get your seat or your virtual stream pass now at badlandsmedia.tv/events. Launch is imminent, and you don't want to miss this liftoff.
All right, there you go. Get your virtual in-person tickets to Gart Cocoa Beach. And yes, SMAY 60, it is on the beach. So it is within walking distance because it's on the beach. The hotel is
literally on the beach. You walk out of the hotel and you're standing on the sand.
Yeah, you got a pool area to walk through, and then you're standing on the sand. And you got to rinse your feet before you get back into the pool area. Spacey118 in the YouTube chat says, you didn't see the list, CannCon. You didn't see any of those subpoenas. What are we talking about?
Not sure. Let's do geopolitics real quick because I have to bail here in like 15 minutes, probably less than that.
Well, and today's gonna be a real short show. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's start with this 2-minute clip of Ron Dermer. This is from the Republican Jewish Coalition. I think he said this either Sunday or Monday.
Mark Levin is a profile in courage in taking on the enemies of the United States and the enemies of Israel without compunction and without hesitation. And if there were more Mark Levins in America, the future of this country would be brighter than ever. And that's what we need to have achieved after this conference, exactly what Mark said today. A lot of talk. The question is, are they going to translate that talk into action? And thank you, Mark, for everything you've done for the state of Israel and for the alliance. And you remind me of somebody who we should recognize, who is a mentor of Matt's, and somebody who's one of the greatest Jews that I've met in my lifetime, who's not with us anymore, and his wife is not with us here today, and that's Sheldon Adelson. He was a man of tremendous courage. And he told me when I was ambassador many times, he said, what is the use of all these people, very prominent and influential Jewish Americans, what is the use of them having all this access if they're not going to be there when it counts? If you're not going to actually go to your elected official and say, this is what has to be done, and you need to take a stand. And Sheldon, when I was ambassador, would do that time after time after time. You just heard from President Trump, and as my prime minister has said time and again, we've never had a friend like President Trump. Never. But I remember with Rhoda going out to dinner with Sheldon and Miri every time they would come to Washington. And, you'd think Sheldon had such a tremendous role in helping convince President Trump to go and recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital was a very important issue for Sheldon. But he didn't stop there. The next time he met the president, he went and talked to him about something else, and then something else, and then something else. It was never about access for Sheldon Adelson. It was about doing the right thing, and he supported people who he believed in, and he said, the reason why I believe in you is because you say that you stand for something, and now when you get into office, stand for something, actually do it. And so he's a profile in courage. We miss him deeply.
Yeah, and so Ron Dermer is right now the Minister of Strategic Affairs in Israel. He's Netanyahu's right-hand man. We've talked about him many times. He was the ambassador to the United States from Israel during the first Trump administration. And what he's saying there is he used to go into people's offices because he would have lived in D.C. And he used to go into people's offices and say, this is how it's going to be. Like, this is what you're going to do. And so you're wondering about sovereignty and control over your own government. And here you have it. This guy isn't even an American citizen anymore. He denounces American citizenship, which I respect. He's an Israeli citizen living in D.C., or was living in D.C. and telling American politicians how things are going to go when they go to vote on domestic issues. So, you don't have control over your elections, the outcome of your elections. They're fake and gay. And then you have this kind of stuff going on. And it's not just Israel, but they certainly are one of the most prominent in terms of the clout and influence. It's important to recognize that. And so, and by the way, I think if Trump had come out, you really start to see and understand, watching Mark Levin operate right now, and people like him, why Trump has had to play his cards the way he has. Because if he had come out and been anything but pro-Israel, there's no way they would have even let him on the ballot, right? And that's just the way it is. But there's a reason why both parties have to support Israel no matter what. Biden certainly did. That's just the way it is. So that takes us to this story, and we're just going to hit 3 stories really quick today. The U.S. seeks UN approval for Gaza security force with broad 2-year mandate. So over the weekend, Trump submitted a draft resolution to the UN saying this is what the international security force, or I'm sorry, the international stabilization force, they call it the international security force here, but I think it's the international stabilization force, is going to look like. And the UN now has X number of days to approve it, but it's going to include Indonesia, Azerbaijan, Egypt, and Turkey to contribute troops. And Trump has been very, very, very adamant that he wants Turkey involved. Netanyahu says he doesn't. He says no matter what, Turkey's not going to have troops in Gaza. I think the reason that Trump wants Turkey involved, the reason they say they do, is because Turkey has a bead on Hamas and they'll keep Hamas in check. But I think the real reason is because Turkish troops are NATO troops. And if the IDF fucks around and attacks the ISF, that means they're going to be attacking NATO, which means you activate Article 5, which means Israel is at war with all of Europe, Canada, and the United States immediately. So I think that's why Trump wants Turkey to be in the mix in Gaza, and they probably will be. It says that they're included in this draft resolution. The other big takeaway, as it says right here, the ISF is intended to provide security in Gaza during a transition period. It says it's going to last for 2 years earlier in the document, during which Israel is to gradually withdraw from additional parts of Gaza, and the Palestinian Authority is to conduct reforms that would enable it to take over Gaza longer term, meaning that Trump's plan is for the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank to take over Gaza. And then here is, this is from Friday, basically right when this draft resolution is being submitted to the UN, Palestine comes out, the Palestinian Authority comes out and says, is the prime minister, saying Ramallah is best placed to lead post-war Gaza despite Israeli obstacles. And so they're saying we're ready. We're implementing the reforms that Trump wants us to implement, and we are prepared to take over control of Gaza eventually. So that's going to happen, I think. And then the other story that I want to hit on Israel is this one. You can see the picture of this woman over here on the left. The police arrest former military advocate general, former chief prosecutor. So the TLDR is that this woman, her name is Major General Yifat Tomer Yerushalmi. She was the military advocate general, so she was the top lawyer in the IDF. She's the one who apparently approved the leak of, you remember that gang rape video we got last year of the IDF soldiers gang raping those Palestinian prisoners?
Yep.
Yeah, and we're talking about men raping other men, just to be clear. She's the one who leaked that, and she said that I guess she thought it was in the public's best interest. This report was leaked last week. I think it was Friday that she was the one who did it. She immediately resigned, and then apparently on Friday night she went missing for several hours. Her adult children, found a note which appeared to be a suicide note, and then she was found several hours later on the beach. And there's not really details about what happened there, but in my opinion, it appears they were trying to arcanicide her. She also arrested was the military's chief prosecutor, Colonel Matan Solomon. He was involved in this too. Her and him together, the chief prosecutor and the military advocate general, is to be the 2 top lawyers in the IDF, released those videos because they thought it was in the public's interest to see them. Netanyahu came out, of course, and was livid and said, these people have done irreparable damage to Israel's reputation around the world. Never mind the fact that, it happened that the IDF was gang raping men, Palestinian prisoners. And then after they were caught doing it, the Knesset passed a law saying that it is lawful for IDF soldiers to rape prisoners, that you can't hold them accountable for doing that. The Knesset actually passed that law.
That's nuts. That is absolutely nuts.
Which is a commentary on Israeli society and Israeli culture. I mean, it's a pretty sick and degenerate culture. Doesn't mean every single person there is that way, but when that is the response, when that video leaked last year and the Knesset came out and said, all right, we're going to pass a law saying that this is actually okay. kind of tells you everything you need to know about what's going on over in Israel. And now they've arrested the people who leaked the video, and rather than addressing the root issue, they're going to make an example out of them. So the other two stories that I want to hit real quick, one of them is just this headline is my favorite headline of 2025. Nobel Peace Prize winner calls for military attack on our own country. And the TLDR here is that Maria Corina Machado was she did an interview where she, number one, she said Hamas is operating in Venezuela, of course, and now we need to go in there. There are Zionist accounts like OSINT accounts now putting out rhetoric saying that they're digging terror tunnels, that Maduro has dug terror tunnels under Venezuela, just like Hamas did in Gaza, and therefore we need the narco terrorists are using the terror tunnels to traffic drugs. And the other thing they are saying now is that Maduro is actually the one rigging U.S. elections, not Putin. So it's not Putin influencing elections; it's actually been Maduro all along. And so they're just giving you every reason to support a military strike. Colonel McGregor did a interview with Tucker last week, which is great. Where number one, he said that he affirmed the theory that Maduro is not working with the cartels, that he's against the cartels. He said he's clamping down on 8,000 narco criminals that are living around Caracas in the hills. He's been going after them, which is true. My research shows that too, along with Colombia. But Maduro said that his sources have told him that the attack is going to happen either November 4th or November 5th. And right now we have what's called a supermoon, like a full, and he said it's because there's a full moon, which doesn't make any sense strategically. But if you're doing like a blood ritual, like a human sacrifice ritual, then it does start to make sense. Apparently it's called the beaver moon, the full moon. So anyway, keep an eye out. They might, do some nonsense tonight or something, but we'll wait and see. But the last story is Trump threatens military action in Africa. This is a really, I did a longer dive on this at the end of my show yesterday. But the TLDR is Nigeria, which is the head of ECOWAS. This is directly related to Burkina Faso and everything happening in Burkina Faso. They've killed, I think, 3,600 Christians have died there, or maybe it's 3,300 of the 4,500 Christians that have been killed worldwide recently. I don't know what the time period is. 3,300 of them have been in Nigeria, and it's Boko Haram, which is ISIS, operating in Nigeria, in the northwest part of Nigeria. And he says, you better be careful, or maybe America will come in guns blazing to wipe out the Islamic terrorists for you. And here is an article from April of 2025 of a Catholic priest praising Captain Ibrahim Traore, who is a Muslim, because Ibrahim Traore is protecting Christians in Burkina Faso from, this is a Nigerian bishop saying this, and he's protecting Christians from radical Islamic terrorists and killing these radical Islamic terrorists who are going after Christians. So this is Trump, I think, communicating that him and Ibrahim Traore are aligned ideologically when it comes to this threat. And this is the deep state, the globalist deep state, coming after the alliance of Sahel states. I think I have a map. Let me see if I can show this, pull this up real quick, and then I gotta shut it down. Nigeria, yep, right here. So here's a map that'll show you what we're looking at. So the light green, these three countries minus Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, left in January 2024. ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, they formed their own alliance, the Alliance of Sahel States. And the three of them have been fighting ISIS, Boko Haram, for years now. Northwest Nigeria, right here on the border of Nigeria, that's where all these Christians are being killed by ISIS. The Nigerian government is aiding and abetting them. That's what the Nigerian bishop in that April article was accusing them of. He's saying that the military and the police in Nigeria are aiding and abetting ISIS and helping them kill these Christians, and that Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali are fighting back against them. ECOWAS is the bad guy. That's the UN. They're the bad guy, and the Alliance of Sahel States are the good guy. That is backed by Putin. That is backed by Xi. That's backed by the Sovereign Alliance. So you have a very clear-cut Sovereign Alliance conflict happening right here, with the light green being Sovereign Alliance and the dark green being Globo Homo.
Hell yeah. All right, Gordon, I know you got things you got to get to. So
I got a hard out. So
yeah, thanks for joining me, brother. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, man. See you tomorrow.
All right. We got just a couple more stories that want to get to before we get out of here. I thought I had these stories up for yesterday. I thought they were very interesting. A drug trafficking ring broken up in Mississippi, dealing with the cartel, a bunch of sheriffs running interference for him. Check out this clip.
Being called a, quote, monumental betrayal of public trust. 2 county sheriffs and 12 other law enforcement officers indicted in Mississippi, accused in a years-long conspiracy to traffic drugs across the state in exchange for money.
They betrayed the trust that the public placed in them, disgraced the badge.
The FBI saying the officers provided safe passage for drugs that in some cases were delivered to Memphis and as far as Miami. Some of the defendants allegedly escorting the drugs. Officials say in one case, the officers whose job it is to protect the public from illegal drug trade thought they were helping transport 55 pounds of cocaine through the Mississippi Delta. But the cocaine was actually from an FBI agent posing as a member of the Mexican cartel.
The next step is delivering accountability for everyone who's betrayed the public's trust.
Agents say some of the bribes topped $30,000. There are 20 suspects in all, including some from Tennessee. They have not yet entered a plea deal, and their lawyers have not commented.
So, when you hear President Trump's not doing anything, whatever, clean this up, that's a pretty big deal. That is a pretty big deal. Years-long investigation, 20 people in total, 12 law enforcement officers from Mississippi, including, was that the chief, the sheriff? Hell yeah, keep it up. And then last thing before we get out of here, 2 more stories before we get out of here, just some quick videos. I thought this was incredibly heroic. We just kind of showed the ugliest in law enforcement. This is the good in law enforcement. This was a cop here in Florida in Hillsborough County that was responding to a call of a man that was holding a young child. I don't know if it was it's his son or daughter, holding him hostage. And this is a little graphic, so just a warning.
Drop the knife. Bring the child out of the room. Let me see your hands right now. Let me see your hands.
You are going to get shot.
Let me see your hands right now. Let me see your hands right now. Let me see your hands right now. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. Drop the knife. Drop it. Come on, baby. Come on.
Hell yeah. So the guy's standing outside of the door, and it sounds like the little kid says, bust down the door. And the cop says, I'm going in to take care of business. Goes in, tries to reason with the man, and puts one in the dome. Good police work right there. Save that kid's life potentially. A lot of people are up in arms. This video is going viral. So I'll play the reaction here. I'm not going to play this clip here because it doesn't really have any volume, but in Hollywood, California, a woman was confronted a man in the gym's locker room. All right. And we have the video of the confrontation outside of the locker room. And we'll play that real quick.
How are you? Did you tell me or not that women like to see dick?
I'm the guy asking you a fucking question.
Exactly. Get out of the way now. No. Now he knows how to be a man, right? Now he knows how to be a man. Stay out of the women's locker room. We don't want it. He needs to have his gym membership revoked for that shit. And the woman told you. He assaulted me. The girl told already. We already filed reports. No.
That's fine. I want the video.
You can't get rid of me for this. I'm a woman and I have every right to not want a man in the restroom when I'm naked. There are girls naked in there. Look at them walking in there like it's okay. It's not okay.
I mean, people are going to start learning, even in California. But so the craziest thing about this, and we'll just play it here. But that woman that made that video that confronted that man in the women's locker room, a man, fully intact male. The woman was terminated from Gold's Gym.
Gold's Gym!
Oh, by the way, just a graphic language warning here.
Men! Grown men with big dicks and the women's locker room. And that's why I'm getting kicked out. And I want to make sure the girls know. The fuck? Everybody saw that man in the fucking locker room. No one's saying shit. And I'm fucking done with it. It's fucking stupid. It's dangerous. Me naked in front of a man without my permission. But I ain't the one who gets kicked out the gym, y'all.
So she gets kicked out of the gym. Now, and to be fair to Gold's Gym here, that is California law. That is the UNRWA law, that gender expression. You cannot stop them from going into the ladies' room, the women's room, the men's room, whatever the case might be. So this is the, California's politics, the culture wars over there just kind of unfolding now. That woman there, not only obviously we can see that she's a woman and that she's black, but she's also a lesbian. So you've hit all three of the Democrats' wet dream, right? Black, female, lesbian, pushing back against a trans, quote unquote, trans woman going in butt ass naked, hanging with everything hanging out, going into the women's locker room. That guy's not making an attempt to, quote unquote, be a woman. There's no bottom surgery done there. Not even put in earrings. You got earrings in, so you're allowed to go into the ladies' room. This is, hey, keep it coming, man. If this is what it takes to wake people up, keep that shit coming. She went off on another longer rant. If you guys want to see it, I'll share it right now. She's done a couple rants since then, and it's actually pretty badass. Pretty badass, to see that happening. And if that's what it's going to take, then that's what it's going to take. Despite the election results yesterday, there is a lot of people that are waking up and pushing back against all this bullshit. So, guys, I do have to end the show a little bit early today because, like I said, we got to hit the road. We're driving up. And for those of you, again, I pinned it in the chat there, but for those of you listening that aren't seeing the chat, first off, if you're not chatting, jump in, say hello. Unique chats help us out a ton. But there will not be a Badlands Daily tomorrow because none of us have equipment while we're on the road and we'll be traveling. And Friday's Badlands Daily, me and Chris Paul will be going live at 9 a.m., not 10, because we're East Coast time and GART starts at 10. So it'll probably be about a 45-minute show with me and Chris, and we'll get into all the news of the day. And yeah, make sure you get your GART tickets, badlandsmedia.tv/events, virtual tickets, single in-person day tickets. Sassy Girl, morning, y'all. See you in a few days at GART. Please stop by the Unite for Freedom vendor table to check out election information for your state. I will definitely come over and talk to you. That's my thing. See you there. 94 Patriot, the timing of the UPS plane with the massive fireball and all the talk about 38,000 gallons of fuel and the death of Cheney seems to be a little weird. Yeah, I saw that, the UPS plane crash. That was nuts. Like the guy got it on film, like from his dash cam, just comes ripping across, man. Absolutely tragic. Yeah. The Bunny, I work elections, had a recently relocated blue state voter complain about using a paper ballot and pen, demanding machines. Virginia's full of legal irregularities, so much quote unquote legal fraud. Yep, but that's why we need to. That's why I'm leaning more and more towards eliminating the filibuster and being able to implement federal law on federal elections. You can't do it on state elections, but the states are going to comply. Why? Because they don't want to separate the elections. It's going to cost them too much money. It's going to cost them too much money. And to be fair, like, this is the cool thing. Like, if President Trump eliminates the filibuster, my longtime proposal of separating federal, state, and local elections could actually be the most logical response, and it would be instigated by the states, not by the federal government. Because if the federal government passes all these laws that we want to see, voter ID, no mail-in ballots, no machines, hand count, precinct level, if they pass all those laws, then the states are going to have to follow suit, or the states are going to have to run their own elections, which is what I've wanted all along. Separate the state and federal elections. You take a lot of the money out of the state races, and you take away, and I know this sounds insensitive, but I think our listeners are adults and they can understand this. You take away uneducated voters. You take away voters who simply vote for their state representative, not their U.S. representative for the state or their district, but their state legislator, representative, just because they have an RD next to their name. And that's the only reason they vote for them. They have no idea who the person ultimately is, what they stand for, nothing. But they have an RD, so they're going to vote for them. And then what happens from there? That person ends up getting promoted next time they run for U.S. Congress. And you're like, oh, well, he was my state legislator, so he's got to be good. Then you vote for him again for federal office. And so it's a perpetual cycle. And I would love to see, I'm leaning more and more towards eliminating the filibuster to get this across, because I don't think we need it anymore. Thank you, the bunny. Bobuifu. Bob Bufu. Bufu. When a Republican vote is close, election drags out. Demon Rat wins and done election day, period. Yeah. Yep. I think they called the California race with like 7% of the vote in. It's crazy. Misfit 556, the UPS plane was also flight number 2976. The same number as how many people died on 9/11. The same day Cheney dies. Coincidence? LOL. Wow. That's crazy. 2,976. And you double ranted there, so I'm not sure if you meant to do that. You probably could get a refund for that. Otherwise, thank you. Appreciate it. Misfit 556. All right, guys. So that is going to do it for today's show. Again, thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Again, I apologize for tomorrow. It's just the logistics behind making a show happen tomorrow. It's every GART week, which is every 3 months, the Thursday before, we don't get to do a show because everybody's traveling and everybody's about and about. It's the one day of the quarter that we don't have a show. Otherwise, Badlands Daily is run every single day. So I do apologize, but stuff happens. So I'll see you guys at 9 a.m. on Friday morning. And for those of you attending GART, I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. And take care, and I'll see you. See you when I see you. Oh, hey, where'd the thing go? There it is.
Before skincare went synthetic, people used something simple, something real. Tallow. Grass-fed and finished beef tallow is packed with vitamins A, D, E, and K. Nutrients your skin actually knows what to do with. It locks in moisture, restores elasticity, and defends against winter dryness. No water, no preservatives, and no BS. Unlike plant oils or chemical creams, tallow mimics your skin's own structure. Elbows, hands, knees, post-shave, anywhere your skin's crying for real moisture. Perfect for gifting or keeping your own skin soft when the cold hits. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code Badlands for 15% off. Ancient Care, modern truth.
Self-disclosure.